My name is Mina Okoro, and I once believed I had found the love of my life. His name was Chad. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried himself with the confidence of a man who knew how to charm a room. He wore fine suits, always polished shoes, and spoke with a voice that could persuade anyone. When we were dating, I trusted him enough to share the deepest wound of my past. I told him that I had been raped when I was young. I feared rejection, but he held my hand and said it made no difference to him because he loved me. I thought I had found safety. But once we married, the mask slipped. Chad began to taunt me. He would look at me across the dinner table in our grand home with its marble floors and carved wooden furniture and say, "You disgust me. You are damaged goods. No man could ever truly love you." He said I should be grateful he kept me at all because no one else would want me. His words echoed through the high ceilings of our house like curses. Our home was beautiful, built with my father's wealth. Tall windows draped with silk curtains, polished floors that reflected the light of chandeliers, and a garden filled with hibiscus and bougainvillea. Yet inside those walls I lived in misery. Chad wore tailored egg bodice and gold watches, but beneath the elegance was cruelty. He dishonored our marriage again and again, chasing other women, flaunting his betrayals, and leaving me humiliated. Yet even in my pain, I tried to protect him and myself. I pleaded with him to use condoms. I reminded him about sexual infections. I told him that HIV and other diseases were real, that they destroyed lives, that no amount of charm or wealth could shield him from the consequences of recklessness. I spoke softly at first, hoping he would listen. I said, "Chad, please, if you will not honor me, at least protect yourself. Protect me. Protect our future." But he snapped back in disdain, his eyes cold and his voice sharp. He said, "You're an idiot to think you can lecture me. Do you think you know more than me? Do you think I will let a woman who disgusts me tell me how to live?" His words crushed me. He laughed at the idea of protection. He mocked me for caring. He told me that men like him were untouchable, that nothing could harm him. He dismissed my warnings as foolishness. He strutted out in his fine clothes to meet other women, while I sat alone in the silence of our home, knowing that danger was creeping closer with every careless choice he made. I watched him destroy himself with arrogance. I watched him gamble with his health and mine. And I knew then that his cruelty was not only emotional, but reckless with life itself. My pleas for safety were met with scorn. My warnings about infections were drowned in his laughter. And in the end, his disdain became his downfall. One evening I returned home early. I opened the carved mahogany door and stepped into the living room. The scent of perfume hit me before I saw them. Chad was sprawled on the sofa in a white linen shirt, unbuttoned, his mistress beside him in a red dress that clung to her body. They laughed together, glasses of wine in hand. When they saw me, they did not stop. They laughed louder. Chad looked at me and said, "See, Mina, this is what a real woman looks like." His mistress smirked and added, "You should thank your father for keeping this house, because without him, you would have nothing." I stood frozen, the silk scarf slipping from my shoulders, my heart pounding. The humiliation burned deeper than any wound. In that moment, I realized I had sacrificed my dignity for a man who never valued me. I endured until I could endure no more. The weight of humiliation pressed on me like a stone. Every insult Chad hurled at me echoed in my mind. Every betrayal replayed itself in my heart. I knew I could not continue to live as a shadow in my own home. I confided in my closest friend, Uzo. She was gentle, yet strong, a woman who had known me since childhood. When I told her the cruelty, the taunts, the night I found Chad with his mistress, she held my hands and said, "Mina, you have carried enough. You're not damaged. You're not broken. You are a woman of dignity, and you must reclaim your life." Her words poured courage into me like water into dry soil. Together we spoke of what must be done. Divorce was frowned upon in our culture. Women were expected to endure, to remain silent, to carry shame, as though it were their duty. But Uzo reminded me that silence was killing me. She said, "You must choose life over tradition. You must choose freedom over chains. We contacted a lawyer. His name was Mr. Okafor, a man known for his fairness and calm strength. He listened as I poured out years of betrayal and humiliation. He explained the process, the risks, the backlash I might face. But he also told me that the law could protect me, that I had the right to walk away. When the papers were filed, Chad was stunned. He had lived in arrogance, believing I would never dare to leave. He thought my father's wealth tied me to him forever. He laughed at first, mocking me, saying no woman in our family had ever divorced. He said society would spit on me. But when he realized I was serious, when he saw the lawyer's documents, his laughter turned to rage and then to fear. When I left, the financial support from my father ended. Chad was shocked. He had lived in arrogance, believing money would always flow, but suddenly he was without finances. The fine suits were sold, the gold watches pawned, the grand home emptied. The man who once strutted in tailored agbatas now wore worn shirts. The man who once mocked me now begged for help. I found courage in the act of leaving. Each step away from that house was a step into freedom. Each word of support from Uzo was a reminder that I was not alone. Each meeting with the lawyer was proof that I had rights, that I had strength, that I had a future beyond cruelty. Chad never expected me to have the courage to leave. He thought tradition would bind me, that shame would silence me. But I chose dignity over dishonor. I chose life over humiliation. And in the end, his arrogance collapsed with his wealth, leaving him to face the consequences of his own actions. His health began to fail. The years of womanizing caught up with him. He grew thin, weak, and constantly ill. The doctors told him the truth. He had contracted HIV. The man who had mocked me and dishonored our vows now faced the consequences of his recklessness. He begged me to return. He wanted me to cook, to clean, to nurse him through his sickness. But I had given enough. I had carried his cruelty, his dishonor, his lies. I refused to sacrifice the rest of my life to his bitterness. His health declined rapidly. Alone and frail, he was moved into a care home. On his dying bed, he asked for me. I went not for him, but for myself to close the chapter. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and whispered, "Forgive me. I was wrong. I destroyed everything. Please forgive me." I stood there torn between anger and compassion. Then I saw the truth. He was no longer the arrogant man who mocked me. He was a dying man stripped of pride, begging for peace. And I realized forgiveness was not for him alone. It was for me. I leaned close and said, "I forgive you, Chad." His tears flowed, his breath slowed, his eyes closed, and he died peacefully. His story is a warning. Sexual infections are real. They do not care about charm, wealth, or promises. They spread silently through unprotected sex, through carelessness, through betrayal. HIV and other sexually transmitted infections can cause lifelong illness, suffering, and even death. Protection matters. Using condoms reduces the risk of HIV and other infections. Honesty matters. Partners must respect each other, share their histories, and make responsible choices. Testing matters. Regular health checks can detect infections early and prevent further spread. Love is not enough without respect. Promises mean nothing without responsibility. Protect yourself, protect your partner, and protect your future. If this story touched you, please like and share it so that others can hear the warning. And if you want to hear more stories like this one full of lessons and truth, I invite you to listen to the other stories on my channel.